Okay, everyone, in this section 10.2, we are going to talk about firm's output decision. We know that in a perfect competitive market, a firm chooses output that maximizes its economic profit. One way to find out this maximized profit is to look at the firm's total revenue and the total cost curve. So in the next figure 10.2, we are going to show that. Again, as we talked in the last section, we have the total revenue curve, which is straight line from the origin point and is upward sloping. However, the cost curves look a little bit different. Okay, and then we can know that the difference between total revenue and the total cost is the economic profit, showing in the part B. Alright, then we know that at low output levels in figure 10.2, a firm incurs economic loss, which means that the cost is higher than the revenue because right now it cannot cover its fixed cost. So in the beginning part, they are suffering an economic loss, which means that economic profit is negative. And at the intermediate level of output, we are going to say that now the total revenue is higher than total cost, then which means firms make economic profit. Okay? However, as the firm increases its output at high output levels, you can say that firms again incurs economic loss. Now the firms makes a very steeper rising cost because we know that the rules of diminishing return. Now the marginal cost increase a lot compared to the unchanged marginal revenue. So we realize that the total revenue minus total cost, which is an economic profit, it experienced this kind of initially is suffering a loss, and then economic profit, and then economic loss. So in this diagram 10.2, we can find out highest point of economic profit arises when it produces nice vectors. Okay? So which is the peak of the profit curve. As we said that we can also do this not only by the point of view of total revenue and the total cost. We can also give the similar analysis by using the marginal analysis. We can find out what is marginal revenue, what is marginal cost, and then makes optimal supply decision. So again, because marginal revenue is constant, equals to P, as we already told, okay? And the marginal cost, initially marginal cost decreasing, but eventually marginal cost increase. This is also, we know that the laws of diminishing marginal returns. So profit is maximized by producing an output at which a very important condition in all economics is marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. Every firm that wants to maximize its economic profit needs to follow this rule. The first order condition, MR equals to MC. We can say that in the following diagram 10.2. First of all, you can say that in the 10.3, following we can take a look at the illustration of this rule by the diagram 10.3. In 10.3, we can see when MR larger than MC, which is initial part of the curve, we know that the economic profit increases, but because right now increase one more unit of output, the marginal revenue is higher than marginal cost. Firms need to increase its output to increase the economic profit. Then, before the output choice of 9 sweaters, firms need to increase its output to increase profit. However, after 9, if the output is higher than 9, MR right now is less than MC. Economic profit decreases because right now marginal revenue is lower than marginal cost. Okay? So if a firm wants to increase its output, it will face economic loss, and to maximize its profit, the rational choice is to decrease the output. So we know that at this kind of intersection point, when MR equal to MC, when the output is 9, the economic profit is maximized. And any deviation from this point will reduce the economic profit. We can find this economic profit maximization point by using MR equals to MC, and which is much more convenient than the total revenue and total cost analysis. So this is important. Please remember that. Okay? So after knowing that a firm's optimal decision by using MR equal to MC, then we can talk about the topic of temporary shutdown decision. Because if a firm in perfect competition market make economic loss, it may decide whether to exit the market or stay in the market. They can make the decision in the long run. If a firm decides to stay in the market, it must decide whether to produce something or shut down temporarily, which means produce nothing. This is decision in the short run. The decision will be the one that minimizes economic loss of the firms when they face this kind of loss in the short run. Okay? So we are going to talk about loss comparison. A firm's loss equals to total fixed cost plus total variable cost minus total revenue, which is TFC plus TVC minus TR. And we can also replace TVC by AVC minus P times Q. Okay? So right now, if a firm chose to shut down, the quantity it produced is 0. So now the economic loss when a firm chose to shut down is TFC, given that Q equals to 0. So right now, the economic loss that firms incurs equals to TFC. Okay? Right now, however, in the short run, if a firm suffers a loss, economic loss that's higher than this, then the firms may consider to shut down temporarily. We can find out this shutdown point by find out the equilibrium loss equals to TFC, which means that the price and the quantity at which it is indifferent between producing profit maximizing quantity and shutdown. Okay? So the shutdown is minimum at AVC, the lowest point of AVC. The point is the same point at which MC curve crosses AVC curve. Okay? We are going to see that in the following diagram. 10.4. You can see that the marginal cost curve AMC, it crosses AVC and AFC at the lowest point. Okay? So in this diagram, we can say that the minimum AVC is $17 a sweater. Okay? But right now, if we can find out, you can say that at $17 a sweater, the profit maximizing output is 7 sweaters a day. So which is the point illustrated by shutdown point in the diagram right now. If the marginal revenue or the market price equals to $17, which means MR is the horizontal line of $17. Right now, then the economic profit equals to 0. However, as the price goes up, as the economic price goes up. Okay, if the MR is 17 and MR equals to MC, provide profit maximizing point at 7 units of sweaters for a firm. But take a look at this diagram. We know that when the output is 7, the ATC tells us that the average total cost is 20 and 0.14. So which means that right now the firm is suffering a loss, and the loss is equals to the right rectangle. Okay, so which is in this diagram, which is TFC. Okay, so now the price of sweater is 17 and the cost is 20.14. Then when the firms face a price between 17 and 20.14, it will still choose to produce, because also it faces this kind of loss. The economic loss is still smaller than the total fixed cost, which is the economic loss it chose to shut down. In the short run, it still has the incentive to operate and chose to produce, because the firms can cover the variable cost and some part of the fixed cost. Is a rational choice for a firm to keep working even it suffers a loss. However, by knowing that if the firms face a price that's lower than 17, which means that right now the economic loss is higher than TFC, and it cannot cover the variable cost, also cannot cover the total fixed cost. So we know that by the price below 17, firms will choose not to produce. So the firm's supply curve starting from the point at $17 per sweater. Okay, so a perfect competitive firm's supply curve shows how a firm's profit maximized output changes as the market price changes, give others remaining the same. Okay, because as we know that, because the firms will produce at the point MC equals to MR and at a point higher than the shutdown point $17, though we know that we can draw this kind of short-run supply curve for a firm by just using the diagram in 10.5. The minimum AVC is $17 per sweater, and below that, firms chose to produce nothing because this is the shutdown point. And after that, the supply curve is just exactly the AVC curve. Okay, so we can then draw this kind of part and find out the short-run supply curve in part B of figure 10.5. So the blue curve in part B traces the firm's short-run supply curve. Okay, so this is section 10.2.